CNN calls out Kamala Harris for her lackluster and pathetic answers to the press. Guys, it is going bad for Kamala Harris. And you know it's bad when the standard was Basement Biden, otherwise known as Sleepy Joe. All right, that's who she has to do better than. And somehow she is managing to drop the ball. So it's really not a good situation. And you're going to see what I mean. So we're going to get right into it. But first, everybody, do me a huge favor here. Help us out by liking our video, sharing it around, and if you're new, subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel so we can keep bringing you guys this great content. And for those of you who have subscribed, thank you so much for coming back. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm still confused about which billionaire rich people are good and which are bad. Trump is, I guess, bad. The people who support Trump are bad. The billionaires that she goes around with, I guess, are good. I think it's a very muddled thing, and I still don't understand. I think today was a miss for Harris. I mean, Joe Biden went on The View today and said he delegated all sorts of authority to her on domestic policy. We know that the Biden administration is not popular on domestic and economic policy. She gave a speech today saying we've got to move past the policies that people think have failed. Well, people think the last 4 years are a failure. And from what I can tell from this interview tonight, which was really a home game, I mean, going on with this particular interviewer was like effectively interviewing with her campaign's press secretary. She had nothing new to say on the economy beyond this ridiculous pablum. You want to talk about aspirations and dreams? They're crushed in this country because of inflation, and these kinds of interviews and the day that she had today are not going to solve it.
So, Jane.
Right there, Kamala is getting slammed mercilessly by a liberal. And make no mistake, a liberal Scott Jennings is. He is a longtime CNN contributor. He's written for the USA Today. He writes for the LA Times, also writes for CNN. And the cherry on top, he was an official in the Bush administration. So if you need any more proof that he was a liberal, well, look no further. And before everybody gets all mad and triggered, just look into the history of the Bush family and Planned Parenthood and their very strong support of it, all right? Take it up with them, not with me. And make no mistake, even Kamala's own people hate her, namely Joe Biden, the president she was serving under. We had that stunt on The View that was just mentioned, but aside from that, remember how just a week after that debate with Kamala and Trump, Biden went and put on a MAGA hat? Pretty uncharacteristic of him. And that was right after Trump had said, by the way, Biden hates Harris. And make no mistake, Trump's hunch on that is totally correct. You guys remember back in the 2020 Democrat primary debates when Kamala Harris came out and basically called Joe Biden a racist and this terrible segregationist and all that kind of stuff? Now, I don't care about being called a racist. It happens all the time. Not that I am, but that's just the nature of being in this kind of political arena. But with the Democrats, when they call you racist, that is about the worst insult they can make. It puts you on par with that mustache man in Germany. It is not a good thing to be called, and trust me, Biden was seething back when Kamala was calling him that. Those two do not like each other. The only reason she ultimately got picked was, let's be real, she was born black and a woman. Well, black. I put that in quotes for a reason. And now, let's see Kamala get roasted just a little bit more.
A little critical of the vice president. I felt like there was absolutely nothing novel about what happened today. I mean, to give an economic speech at an economic club in Pittsburgh, I mean, there's nothing about that feels fresh, new. It's not even consistent with what I even know about her. I worked for as her communications director. So my point is to her and her team, you've got 40 days. The only way you can beat Donald Trump is you've got to take greater risk. That message that happened today at 3 o'clock in the middle of the day, I'm not sure that that's going to move any of the constituents that she needs to target right now, Latino and black men, for example. I'm not sure they heard themselves in that speech. And what I know about the vice president is she actually sees people, and they need to put that on display. But this was not, to me, was not a great...
Well, it's definitely nice to see Kamala being roasted a bit, but it does beg the question, why are these people all of a sudden criticizing her? Let's not forget, when Kamala Harris first started her presidential run, you had all the people in CNN, the fake news media, the rest of it blowing her up, talking about how great she was, making people get psyoped in real time to start liking her, even though they viscerally hated her just about 2 seconds ago. There is a cause for suspicion here. One hypothesis of mine for why they're doing this is because, frankly, they're afraid of her election chances. Look at how she pulls with men. It's terrible. As that lady on CNN just mentioned, you have black and Latino men she's struggling with. It's men in general. People can't stand her. She's just visually such an irritating person that a lot of people see right through it. That's really what it comes down to. But that CNN lady is not the only one who's criticizing her. Even Jake Tapper has something to say. Check this out.
In our 2024 lead, 42 days until Election Day. Voting has already started in some parts of the country. Vice President Kamala Harris is targeting the 7 battleground states with this TV ad.
I'll lower the cost of insulin and prescription drugs for everyone. And I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food. More than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut.
This ad attempts to be a fairly straightforward presentation in answering the question of how exactly she would address the cost of living crisis, which has not always been the case in some of these more unscripted moments that we've heard from the candidate herself. In interviews with CNN's Dana Bash or the Philadelphia's Channel 6 or Oprah, Harris has been asked to outline some specific things she would do to help working people pay for things if elected. And each time she began, well, take a listen.
When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. Yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family.
Rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams for your family. What is she even saying? I swear, Kamala Harris definitely is puffed to doobie half the times before she comes up on stage. There's no other logical conclusion a person could draw. As far as her whole thing about being relatable to the American middle class and working class and all this stuff, you guys see recently when she was talking about how she used to supposedly work at McDonald's? She then said that she was even on fry duty and started giggling like a little girl about it. I don't know about you, but I don't believe her. I just don't. She's lied plenty of times before about many other things. The McDonald's thing, it's probably lied too. That's not how it works at McDonald's, by the way. You don't get put on fry duty. That's just something that the employees do. So, I don't know. Forgive me for being a little bit suspicious, but something's a little bit weird here. It's about as believable as the time when she said that she was smoking, you know what, the devil's lettuce, as some call it, while listening to Tupac and Biggie back when she was on that Charlemagne show. Just one problem with that claim. Tupac didn't come out with his first album until about 2 years after Kamala finished college. That's a little bit questionable.
Cases, it has taken nearly 2 minutes before Vice President Harris actually arrives at describing her policies. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is here with us to discuss. Do you think she needs to be presenting more meat on the bones of, I get that she's from a middle-class family, it's great, and I get that she feels people's pains, great, but what about, like, here are the 5 things I'm going to do directly for you? Does she need to be doing more of that?
Well, she'll be doing some of that tomorrow once she'll put forth her economic plan. But people like to have a connection to whoever is running for office, that they share their experience, that they understand their lives. And I think that's what she is establishing. But I never give advice to presidential candidates. The wisdom that they have, the political astuteness that they have to become the presidential candidate says they know something about the market out there. But I do think that the one issue in terms of the cost of living.
What political astuteness did Kamala exactly have? Was it being a woman and being black? Because that's the only one I'm seeing right now, and that was a promise that was actually made back when Biden was in office about how he was going to appoint his VP candidate. The only other alternative at the time, back when Biden picked Kamala, was some weirdo communist in LA named Karen Bass. So it's not merit. Don't forget that Kamala dropped out of the California primary before it even began. That was her own state, and she was polling at 0%. That's how unpopular she was. And the only popularity she has now is because the media essentially created it onto people. It's kind of insane how that stuff works, but it does, and it happens fast.
People want to hear something very specific. She is saying that in that ad, but also tomorrow in her economic plan. I have no complaint about how she is going forward.
Oh, not a complaint, but do you think that she needs to be mixing it up more, having a press conference, more town halls, just out and about more? Oprah's the queen, obviously, but that's not a tough interview sitting down with Oprah. Oprah's endorsed her. She spoke at the convention. Does she need to be doing more of that sort of thing?
She will make that decision in her campaign agenda and her plan.
Well, everybody, we're going to have to cut it off right there. What'd you think? I don't know about you, but I love seeing Kamala get a little bit of roasting on her. It's long overdue. So I personally enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys did too. Please be sure to comment below. Let us know what you liked about the clip, what kind of content you'll see in the future, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks so much for tuning in, and God bless.